The CattleUSA Daily Podcast. Happy Wednesday morning. I hope you guys are having a great start to your week. I guess it's midway through the week now. Hope you have had a great week. Today, we are welcoming back Dan Gerhold with Logic Ag Marketing, and we are going to be going over the market report for the week, what we're kind of seeing in the markets, any highs, lows, thoughts for the rest of the week, anything like that. It's definitely been a crazy time in the cattle market, so it's always awesome to get Dan's thoughts and opinions on kind of what we're seeing from that side. As always, make sure you like, subscribe, rate, review. We really appreciate all of that stuff that you guys do as listeners to help us continue to grow this podcast. Dan and his team are amazing partners at the CattleUSA team. So also, before you get too far into this episode, make sure you check out our show notes where we have the exclusive CattleUSA Insurance link where we partner with Logic Ag Marketing to offer you guys insurance on all of those things cattle related and things like that in relation to these markets and just LRPs and all this stuff. So make sure you check out those show notes, and let's go ahead and get into this episode with Dan. The Ides of March. Gotta love them.
Yeah.
I'm a hater, and it's okay. I acknowledge it. People are probably like, dang, Lauren, you're so negative about the weather all the time. I am negative about the weather all the time. Unless it's 70 degrees with a nice 5-mile-an-hour wind, I'm going to be complaining. So.
Agreed. You guys always fight wind down there more than us. It's been windy up here in March, but normally not this one.
Yeah, it is. It has been windy here. And I mean, it always is. I think we're just used to it, but that doesn't negate the fact that it still really sucks. We got that, we didn't get the worst of it, but that dust storm that came through last week was insane. Insane. I was working and then I looked outside and I was like, oh my God, where did this come from? Yeah, it was crazy. We didn't have the visibility issues that Western Kansas and Oklahoma and Texas had and stuff like that. I know Amarillo and Western Kansas absolutely got slammed.
Yeah.
But that was crazy. Dust Bowl 2.0. Didn't think that I was going to add that to my bingo card for this year.
No, it's and it's only March. Give it time. More to come. It looked like there were some bad accidents. Yeah, Texas. That was brutal looking.
Crazy. Absolutely crazy. I'm very grateful that we didn't have to deal with that, but boy, oh boy, it has been a bipolar crazy week.
I agree. Oh, another month from now, you'll be shorts and a t-shirt and everything will be good.
Exactly. Everything will be right in life. And then I'll probably be complaining that it's hot. So,
Yeah.
It's fine.
Yep. I know the feeling.
Oh, gosh. Yes. Of course. Well, markets. What do you want to talk about today?
It's just as bipolar. Well, not on a day-to-day basis, but on a month-to-month, the markets are just as bipolar as the weather. It was the month of February, down. Cattle were going to zero. This thing is over, and now we're setting new all-time contract highs every day in feeder cattle. I think June live cattle set a new high today. Contract high there. Cash cattle market's on a rally. Things are looking good right now. It's strong. Once again, I'm a little nervous about the Ides of March. They can catch you. I don't know. A lot of chop. I mean, like I said, cattle have rallied, been strong. Cash has been strong, leading the way. Managed money is buying, putting those longs back on. So that's what we need to see in a healthy market. That all looks good. Hog market's been chop city for the last 2 weeks, but for the most part, things look good right now. I'm just waiting for that hammer to drop as we get towards the end of March. The boxes have been up and down about $10 each week. It'll rally up into the 320s and then turn around and go back down to the 310, 315. We're due for a seasonal pullback in box beef prices. Not in a huge way, just leading into that early April, and then then you typically rally it coming into grilling season, favorite month of May. So, for now it's just, are we going to see that pullback? I know there's a lot of the not consumers, but producers right now are hell bent. We're going to 220 fat cattle and $3 yearlings, and I can't argue with them. The market looks strong right now. It's got the setup to do it. Got a bullish cattle on feed report this week, expected bullish this week. It'll be interesting to see what the USDA gives us for their guesses. But yeah, the setup's there. These back months, August setting a new high today, October setting a new high. Things look good, strong, and healthy. Let's hope the Ides of March don't hit the cattle market.
We would love it if they didn't. That would be amazing if we could push through these last 2 weeks in March and not have to. We have 2 weeks left, right? What's today?
Yeah. Yep.
The 19th? Yeah, we got 2 weeks left.
Yep.
We can push through. We can do it. I'd love to
Absolutely.
see those record numbers keep on recording. Be awesome.
Yeah. Yep. I agree.
Absolutely.
No, it's been good. It's been encouraging that a lot of producers are starting to really look into risk management too. I mean, nobody knows when the shoe's going to drop, but it's grass cattle season. Everybody's buying these $2,200 grass steers. I mean, even if you're out buying a fall calf, it's still, a 4-weight heifer is still setting new all-time record highs for this time of year, even if it's a fall calf. You get into the 5 and 6 weight steers, the good hardened up ones from old crop, those are unbelievable. A lot of money. I mean, we're at the point now where I'm trying to figure out if 40 acres of land is worth more or less than a potload of feeder cattle to turn out on it. It's just, who would have thought this was coming?
Who would have thought? I don't think I could have ever guessed that we would be debating those two prices next to one another of like, is this actually worth it to, keep all of this right now? No, it's crazy, especially with like all the record land prices that we've been seeing. Well, the cattle market just said, hold my beer.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. No, and it was the cattle market was suppressed too long, too low, in my opinion. The longer you stay at a lower price, eventually that leads to a much higher elevated price. Low prices cure low prices just as much as the high prices cure the high ones. So like I said, there's people out there that don't even think we're at a high price yet. So maybe they're right. I guess there's going to be a lot of happy cattle feeders and cattlemen, cow-calf producers that are loving this. But yeah, it's encouraging to see people look at risk management as we're spending this much money.
Mm-hmm. No, 1,000%. As we're kind of looking out for the rest of the week, this week you touched on it a little bit, the rest of the week on the markets, what are we kind of thinking? Any other highs or lows that people need to maybe pay attention to or take a look at?
It's this week has been a combination of the cattle on feed expectations coming out bullish. It's also been a combination of the other side of it is cash is still king in the fat cattle market, and the feedlots have held out. They had another successful week getting cash to bounce $3-4 last week. So that was encouraging. I think the sentiment is once again higher cash this week. It's Wednesday, so it's early yet, but if everybody holds out and we can, the north might see that 210, you might get the south to 206 cash cattle. That'd give this April market a lift, drag June along with it. That's what we're kind of looking for this week, without getting into the cattle on feed side of things too much. I guess overall, I believe the USDA has to release a bullish cattle on feed report, but once again, coming back to these reports, it's not, they could come out with a bullish report where placements are under marketings for the month of February. But how does that report look compared to all the estimates and the average of estimates? Are we within the range of estimates? So as we step into Monday and look at next week's trade as a result of this report, what's that look like? So, you got feeder cattle knocking on 290 here. If this report comes out bullish, but not quite as bullish as expectations, what does that do to the market next week? That's what we need to be preparing for. Overall, I don't think they can release a bearish report unless it's bearish against the estimates, because the numbers in the sale barns during the month of February were so much lower. You had Mexico feeder cattle imports so much lower than February of last year. So combine those two things, there just weren't a lot of cattle placed last month. So the setup, you start looking at deferred contracts in the fat cattle market, that August, October, time frame. The setup is certainly there to have a big, strong market out there, if we hold on to our demand. So.
Perfect. Well, hey, that's all great things to hear. Can you explain the USDA's kind of reporting process a little bit and what a bullish report is?
Okay, so the way the cattle on feed report is set up, there's regional offices scattered throughout the feeding region that produce. Those employees that work at those regional offices, they call the feed yards, or they automatically get them from the feed yards, the numbers. What did they place? How many head of cattle during the month of February? What weight ranges were they placing? And then at the same time, also, what were they marketing? So what cattle got sold as fats? Apply those two numbers, marry them back together, and they, not just those, but the other numbers, you've got disappearances, but it all comes back to the number of cattle on feed. So as a general rule of thumb, a couple months ago, it was pretty standard, 12 million head of cattle on feed. This is just in feed yards of 1,000 head or bigger. So only your medium to large yards. So if those regional offices are collecting accurate data, we have an idea of what's coming down the pipe at a future time. Are we looking at a big slug of cattle in September, October, or placements were low during February? Are we going to be short in September, October? We can marry all those numbers and look at those individual months. There's obviously flaws. Not everybody reports. Not everybody reports accurately. I find it hard myself to believe that there was 12 million head of cattle on feed at the start of this year, considering where prices are now compared to where they were back during COVID when we also had 12 million head of cattle on feed. So it's a little hard for me to give this report too much credit, but at the same time, the market trades it. We have to be aware of this because all the traders, your managed money, your small specs, all those guys are trading this government report because that's all they have to go off of. So that's in the back of our mind. Coming back to your question though, what is bullish? Well, the report is based on a specific month, such as February, compared to February of last year. So it's not about, compared to last month or January or October of last year. It's last February. Well, those numbers can be largely skewed by a specific month. Something happened last February. We placed a whole heck of a lot of cattle. There were some winter storms in December, January that held cattle off, so we placed them in February. Okay, so now you fast forward, this year in the markets, December and January, we had really strong markets. So guys were taking their cat feeders to the sale early because they wanted to capitalize on that market. So now all of a sudden those feeders aren't able to be placed in February. So you have, like I said, the whole report has its issues, but we have to trade it, have to be prepared to use it. So I guess I'm in the camp, like I said, we're going to expect a bullish report because those placements are going to be lower than the marketings. Even though marketings in February were down compared to last year, our placements, we're still placing fewer cattle in the feed yards than what we're selling as fats. That in itself is bullish to me.
That makes perfect sense. Thanks for explaining a little bit more. anything else that we need to touch on for this week, this coming week? Anything else?
No, overall grains are mostly quiet here. A lot of people are waiting out this acreage, wanting to see what are we putting in for corn, what are we putting in for beans. That comes out, I believe, next week. So USDA's report on that could probably make some big swings in the grain markets. It's a little bit early for me to start talking weather in regards to grains because up here in the great state of Iowa, we don't even have a kernel in the ground yet. So I don't need to talk about droughts or floods, but yeah, that about sums it up for me.
Perfect. Well, Dan, thank you for your time. As always, I appreciate it. And to all of you listeners out there, thanks for tuning in to another episode of the CattleUSA Daily Podcast. We hope you have a great rest of your Wednesday. And as always, like, subscribe, rate, review, do all the things. We really appreciate it here at the team. And we'll catch you all next Wednesday for another podcast. See y'all.